Venus from a distance of 17,000 kilometers with some of its own instruments in the frame. President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden will hold dueling primetime town halls today instead of their second presidential debate, which was cancelled after Trump declined to take part in a virtual matchup. The twin events, in which each candidate will field questions from voters, will both take place at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, with Trump on NBC and Biden on ABC. Voters are casting their ballots early at a higher rate than ever before ahead of the presidential election. Over 13 million votes have already been cast, about 10 times what they were in 2016. Democratic leaders urging Joe Biden supporters to vote early and in huge numbers amid concerns that nothing short of a decisive win for the Democratic candidate will stave off a move by President Trump to contest the result of the November 3rd elections. The 2020 presidential election could be the most closely contested in recent memory due to a deeply divided electorate and the possibility that President Trump will challenge widely used mail-in ballots, claiming without evidence they are fraudulent. 4 years ago, President Trump rode a wave of late deciding voters to a shocking election victory, but those voters are unlikely to rescue him again. The U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee wrapping up 4 days of hearings on Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett by questioning experts, including 2 from the American Bar Association, which calls her well qualified for the job. She will not be present after making it through 2 long days of questioning by senators in which she largely deflected Democratic committee members' concerns that she would threaten Obamacare, abortion, voting rights, and same-sex marriage. In a statement released yesterday, Mitt Romney said that as the November election nears, he's troubled by the American political landscape, which he argues has transformed from a place of spirited debate into a vile, vituperative, hate-filled morass that is unbecoming of any free nation. President Trump said he's not happy with Attorney General William Barr after the Justice Department's investigation of the Obama administration found no wrongdoing and quietly concluded with no criminal charges. Members of anti-government militia groups charged with plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, a Democrat, before the election also discuss abducting the Democratic governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam. And Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden has vowed to provide citizenship to 11 million illegal immigrants if voted to power in these elections. President Trump told a crowd in Iowa yesterday that his youngest son, Barron Trump, recovered quickly from COVID-19. And that's one reason why schools must reopen soon. Recent data retrieved from Johns Hopkins University data showed the number of global cases reaching 38 million. Texas has reported the highest number of new COVID-19 cases since the 30th of September, confirming over 5,000. The additional cases being reported across the state is now to over 800,000. And the former Navy SEAL, known for his role in the operation that killed Osama bin Laden, is pushing back after President Trump amplified conspiracy theories that the terrorist leader's death was a hoax. Robert O'Neill, who says he killed bin Laden in the 2011 raid, has rebuffed Trump and others in several tweets for promoting the conspiracy theory that bin Laden's body double was instead killed. 2 U.S. citizens and the remains of a third American were released by Houthi rebels in Yemen last night in a surprise exchange that sent about 250 Yemeni militants back to the country. An international human rights group said today that a year-long military campaign by Syria and Russian forces that repeatedly attacked civilian targets in the last rebel stronghold in northwestern Syria constituted apparent war crimes and may amount to crimes against humanity. Iran's Cybersecurity Authority acknowledged cyber attacks on 2 governmental departments. They occurred this week and were under investigation. Protests against Nigeria's police continue to rock the country for the 8th straight day today as demonstrators march through the streets of major cities, blocking traffic and disrupting business. At least 10 people have been killed and hundreds injured, according to Amnesty International, which accuses the police of using excessive force against the protesters. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a 3-level national system designed to standardize and control a resurgence in coronavirus outbreak in the region. London is adding stricter coronavirus restrictions beginning midnight Friday, and London's Mayor Sadiq Khan has said he expects the government will announce today more stricter lockdown restrictions. French President Emmanuel Macron announced a curfew in Paris and 8 other cities to limit public gatherings and movement as part of a new state of emergency as coronavirus cases rise across Europe. European lawmakers won't be returning to the French city of Strasbourg for next week's plenary session because of the COVID-19 resurgence in France. And the COVID-19 is still spreading rapidly worldwide with over 1 million deaths and 38 million infections. Swiss health officials refrained from new nationwide measures to curb spread of the coronavirus as the number of infections mounted today. And Germany will see in the coming days whether the measures agreed to control the spread of the coronavirus are tough enough. The Czech Republic will start building capacity for COVID-19 patients outside of hospitals as the country battles the fastest rate of infections in Europe. Authorities in Moscow said a QR code system would be introduced at late-night entertainment venues in an effort to contain the spread of the coronavirus as deaths in Russia hit a record daily high today. Dutch health officials said they had found the first infection with the West Nile virus to have originated from the Netherlands. And a 15-year-old Italian computer whiz who died of leukemia in 2006 moved a step closer to possible sainthood with his beatification in the town of Assisi, where he is buried. At the beatification ceremony in Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi, a portrait was slowly unveiled, revealing a smiling teen in a red polo shirt, his curly dark hair illuminated by a halo of light. Cardinal Papal Legate for the Assisi Basilicas kissed each of the boys' mask-wearing parents after reading the proclamation decreed by Pope Francis. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the World News on Radio Caravan. Thailand's government has declared a strict new state of emergency for the capital of Bangkok a day after a student-led protest against the country's traditional establishment saw an extraordinary moment in which demonstrators heckled a royal motorcade. Australia's Victoria state has said it had just 6 new coronavirus cases in the last 24 hours, its lowest one-day figure in 8 days, and no deaths. Its capital, Melbourne, which has been the epicenter of the country's COVID-19 outbreak, is in its third month of a stringent lockdown. And Japan is looking into using satellite images to further research on the natural environment of islets in the East China Sea claimed by China. China says it tracked a U.S. Navy warship as it passed through the Taiwan Strait and has its forces in the area on high alert as tensions between the world's two largest economies and rivals for regional influence continue to simmer. The White House is moving forward with more sales of sophisticated military equipment to Taiwan. And Chinese President Xi Jinping isn't only flexing muscles with neighbors, but has stepped up efforts to consolidate his leadership in the Communist Party that meets later this month. Top officials in Chinese-administered Tibet have defended a vocational training program that some critics have called coercive and urged Tibetans not to overdo religion during a briefing with foreign journalists on a rare visit to the region. The State Department appointed an official to oversee U.S. policy on Tibet, the latest sign of the Trump administration's growing outspokenness on Chinese human rights issues as relations between Washington and Beijing continue to deteriorate. Days after it was alleged that the Chinese People's Liberation Army had constructed at least 9 buildings on the Nepal side of the Nepal-China border in Humla district in Karnali province, sources confirmed that Nepal has set up 6 border observation posts along its border with China. Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli has shunted out the country's Deputy Prime Minister out of the Defence Ministry in this cabinet reshuffle, a move seen as an effort to reset ties with its giant neighbour India. And an Indian Air Force team led by a 2-star officer is currently in France to review the progress of the Rafale project, even as the second batch of fighters is set to reach their home base in Ambala in the next few weeks. Royal challengers Bangalore would eye maintaining their winning run as they lock horns with Kings 11 Punjab in the 31st match of the Indian Premier League 2020, and the match is taking place at the Sharjah Cricket Stadium. India reported over 67,000 new COVID-19 cases and 680 deaths in the last 24 hours. The Sabarimala temple will be open for devotees for 5 days starting from tomorrow during the Malayalam month of Thulam amid the COVID-19 outbreak. And domestic passengers who landed at Mumbai airport last night were in for a pleasant surprise with no quarantine stamping of hands on arrival. As part of its fresh unlock guidelines, the Maharashtra government allowed restarting of the metro rail in the state from today. And the Supreme Court has declined to entertain a plea by Republic TV challenging Mumbai police investigation into alleged TRP scam. A depression over western parts of Telangana, about 50 kilometers west of Hyderabad, has caused incessant rain in the city and surrounding areas, giving way to severe waterlogging and flooding. And today is the birth anniversary of former President and the late Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who was born on this date in 1931, known as the Missile Man. He was the People's President from 2002 to 2007. The Punjab government in Pakistan granted permission to opposition political parties for holding of a rally at Gujranwala's Jinnah Stadium tomorrow, the first public show of the Pakistan Democratic Movement that wants to oust the PTI-led government, but also listed certain terms and conditions that participants would have to follow. And the former Director General of the ISI, retired Lieutenant General Zahirul Islam, has said he never asked for the resignation of former Premier and PMLN Supremo Nawaz Sharif in 2014. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have in the news.